Okay, so this is our chat with each other about what we're envisioning for Venture Talk, which is our podcast coming up. If people don't know already, Vani and I are venture partners at an organization called Masters Fund, and we have seen so much in our career, both as entrepreneurs and as investors, that we would love to start a podcast that is called Venture Talk. And it started because I absolutely hate the idea of like getting in front of a camera or getting in front of an audio recording device. But our other partner, Lakshmi, said to me, well, what is the one thing that you really would enjoy like doing and listening to? And I thought about all the podcasts I listened to over the years, and I just absolutely love Car Talk. Like, it's funny, it's fun, it's irreverent, right? I mean, Vani even says that, people who don't even care about cars listen to this. So
Like me. But I knew what you were talking about. And that goes to say that there's an opportunity for lots of different people to learn about startup and venture, even if they've had no experience with it whatsoever.
yeah, and it would just be fun to talk and listen about this topic. I mean, people are always interested in like startups, even if they themselves would not actually do it. And I could just see people calling in like on Car Talk and just be like, hey, I have this company. I'm encountering X, Y, and Z. And we have so much experience like leading and like advising organizations that we could give you really reasonable advice. I don't know how good they are, but I mean, I at least been told by people who I've advised over the years, which is hundreds of people, that I give really good advice. So, I mean, why not turn that into a show, right?
And I like to see the full gambit of experiences and think that it will be really helpful for other entrepreneurs to hear what other entrepreneurs are experiencing. And so, as much as I want to know that my advice might be helpful, I think it'll also be helpful for entrepreneurs to be sharing their experiences and knowing that the problems that they're facing are not unique to them.
Oh,
And that should actually bring them comfort.
oh yeah, for sure. Like so much of like feeling like you're trapped somewhere is like feeling alone. And when you realize you're not, and you realize that this is very common, it feels so different. Like it's almost like a whole veil lifts up and you're like, oh, other people have gone through it. I could too, right? And also like I think we're just funny people. Like I think Vani is like got the most amazing dry sense of humor. And I am very much like the Southern, like, I don't know, sassy, if that's the right word. I don't consider myself particularly funny, but sass can be funny. So,
I don't know. I laugh.
I'm constantly making Vani laugh. And other people who have observed us interact are like, oh, yeah, that's an interaction that people will watch, right? So,
Well, that's because as much as we also like to believe that we give good advice, I think we're very good at double clicking and trying to take a look at what's happening.
yeah,
And
for
part
sure.
of it is knowledge and experience, one, how certain things manifest and show up in a business, but a lot of it is idiosyncrasy too. And that's the part I enjoy.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I like to think that a lot of my double clicking is because I'm an engineer by training, right? I mean, it's just like the nature of us analyzing complex systems, and as however you want to slice it, markets and companies are complex systems. And so all of my engineering analytic skills really can be easily applied here. So,
Well, and I think that anything that an entrepreneur is experiencing shows up in their financial performance. So I'm going to venture to say that most of what we see is going to have some financial output. And I bet we can diagnose it that way, in addition to the engineering and ingenuity that has to go on in
yeah.
understanding.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're mathy people, right? Mathy people are good with numbers. We could diagnose pretty much anything.
We call me Mrs. Wani Math in college.
What?
used to call me Mrs. Wani Math in college.
Oh, wow. No, I never got that kind of. That's awesome. That's really awesome. Yeah. So I don't know. Should we tell people a little bit, people who don't know either one or the other of us or both of us, like what our background is?
Yes, I think that that would be a great idea. You go first.
Oh, I go first. Throw me to the wolves, why don't you? Yeah, so I am Charlie Liu. I come from the world of big data. I'm a trained engineer and a biologist, and my first couple of jobs were kind of ruined me, I have to say. Like, I was on the International Space Station where we launched the first, thing that we could live in space.
Hey, are you a rocket scientist?
Oh, I am not a rocket scientist. Okay, I did do altitude control, yes. So I usually say things like, oh, well, if the space station fell out of the sky, they'll pull me in for a congressional hearing. So I mean, to be fair, I only coded like a few lines of code. It's just altitude control. It's not rocket science. Not, rocket scientists would like have a conniption if I said I was a rocket scientist.
I guess propulsion and all that is a little.
I mean, I didn't do propulsion, right? It's just altitude control. So it is slightly different. But yeah, I mean, I guess like for the common layperson, it probably is all the same thing, right? Like who knows what the difference is?
And Wani.
I actually just like saying rocket scientist. This is like ignorance by like, by choice.
Any rocket scientist, what can I say? I'm looking to add one to my arsenal.
Yes, okay, fine. I will accept this. So my other project is actually the Human Genome Project. And after those two things, I mean, you do two generational projects and you're pretty much ruined for every other job in the world, right? So I mean, both of those are huge data projects in its own right. And every single decision that's made on each of those projects are very much driven by data. And so my whole life, my whole career has been about data analytics and driving, good decisions on collecting good data. And you'll see that all the way through. So I started with that, but like went into deploying emerging technologies for large pharmaceutical companies. They sent me to business school at MIT. And I also got a master's in engineering there. And then I came out doing biotech and then got recruited out to do management consulting, did a lot of M&As for large pharmaceutical companies, and then eventually just caught the entrepreneurial bug. So started a handful of companies. The last one was a unicorn. I have to be very clear about the unicorn status. It was not a unicorn when I sold it. It became a unicorn after I sold it. So
it is a unicorn. You have built a unicorn.
I did build a unicorn, but I just want to be like really clear and precise about the language, because one of the things I hate about other people is overselling, right? And that's one thing that we will never do here in the podcast, is oversell who we are, what we do, what we can do. But yeah, so there was a unicorn exit or an exit that became a unicorn, and I wanted to figure out what to do next. Like I wanted to take the money that I made and do something important with it. And I did a number of other things, but the one thing that someone had said to me that really sat with me is, as a woman, as a person of color, your experience, my experience, she was also a woman, was not great. And it is up to us who had made it to make that experience different for others. And so I had landed here at Master's Fund with Vani. One of the best things that happened to me here, right, is that we met each other and we just had such complementary skills. And I'm going to toss the ball over to her now.
Charlie,
let her talk about
your background, because it is super complimentary and amazing. And it makes me happy to be able to brag about you as an Indian mom any single day. And my background, as Wani Rao is my name, is in financial services. So I came out of derivatives markets. I worked on a trade floor for over a decade, primarily in interest rates, but have touched all sorts of product credit, bonds, foreign exchange, commodities, certainly public equities, and fell backwards into venture capital. I came into venture by way of debt, which is really unusual, but it was really complementary to the experience that I had because it allowed me to take a look at startups from the financial lens from the get-go. And it was really interesting that once I had the opportunity to run several investment deals using that model, that I had the opportunity to go to the other side and actually dip my toe in the entrepreneurial water and actually try to build products for VC. Because what I learned is that venture capitalists are not using data the way that the rest of the industry operates, which means there's lots of opportunities to make returns. And so I was thrilled when I came and met Charlie at Venture at Masters Fund, because Charlie has the computational background to be able to build the models necessary to exploit this. And we're looking forward to bringing this technology to markets as we learn more about companies.
And play Moneyball with it. We'll talk more about that in our podcast. But okay, so something really random. I looked at your, where you're sitting, and there's this beautiful baby behind you. And every time I see it, I think to myself, is that a stock photo or is that your daughter?
Right? No, I actually did not leave the stock photos in the frame, although that's totally within the realm of my personality. No, that is my daughter, Prentice. I have two daughters, Prentice and Scout, who are 7 and 4 now, and I have so much fun with them, and they have to listen constantly to all this banter that often they're trying to figure out what business that they're going to set up. And the other day I had a neighbor over and they decided that they were going to paint pots and sell them. But one of them knew, she said, we need the finishing touch. We need something special. And I knew they were looking for the unique value proposition because I was talking about it the day before.
Very cool. I just think that your daughters, one, are getting exposed to these kinds of things so early in their life that they're going to absolutely be successful in the world. And two, I think what we're doing, trying to create more equity in the venture capital space, is going to benefit them enormously as they grow up. I mean, I think the world is changing. It's not changing fast enough, but what we could do here, at least at Masters Fund, not necessarily using the podcast, but we're going to help make this change come faster.
I think so. And I think the ability for them to see us, honestly, what I have found really valuable to them is actually showing them, meeting women who are entrepreneurs, meeting people who are building things and ambitious in that way, has been extremely influential and will continue to be extremely influential in their upbringing. But my kids shouldn't be the only ones privileged to have that experience.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Because those girls, as they start building their first of what is likely to be many things, they're going to know who to call, Charlie being one of them.
I wish I had something like this when I was young. I mean, I grew up really poor, and like the idea of starting a company just seemed absolutely impossible. And so the other part of my hope of starting something like this is to have people listen to somebody like me who grew up in an economically disadvantaged location, with very little to our family's name, and is able to find abundance and scarcity, right? And be able to sort of raise up out of this. I mean, I'm almost 50, so it's taken me a while. But I do want people to understand that this path is not easy, but it's not impossible, right? Even for somebody like me.
It's really important that you're bringing that up, because fundamentally there are paths to wealth. I mean, we are talking about wealth creation here, and the two ways to do that in this country are by owning real estate and owning businesses.
And you don't have to physically own and operate the business to own a business. I think that's the one thing that a lot of people don't have a good grasp on, is that you can actually buy businesses and like not be an operator. And that's pretty powerful. I mean, that's something that rich people figured out that poor people haven't. And so
Absolutely. It's a matter of understanding how to find resources. Resources are not readily available for every person. We all know that, but that doesn't mean that they can't be sought and found. And so one thing I'd like to do with our podcast is be able to open up some of those resources for people, or at least let them know that there are options out there, even in a system that does not favor certain entrepreneurs or certain types of business owners, that with the right amount of knowledge and conversation and connection, that we could actually provide a system for people to be able to understand what's out there and build businesses for themselves. And again, that's the path to wealth creation. You brought up something really important. That's scarcity versus abundance. If we do nothing else, I'd love to leave people with more of an abundance mindset at the end of our podcast.
yeah, there's tons of money out there. You just got to know where to find it, right? So that is something that will help entrepreneurs figure out, and also figure out what's wrong with your machine.
So I can just operate, because you know what? Sometimes asking yourself the right question is the hardest part.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I know a lot of friends who are excited to call us and ask us for our advice.
Yeah. So if you're an entrepreneur and you have a question, email us or call us, and we will be happy to put you on our inaugural episodes of our podcast.
Yes.
All right. Bye.
Bye.